What a lot of people don't know about Jane Eyre is that it was originally published as an autobiography. So the original title page reads, Jane Eyre, an autobiography, edited by Currer Bell, which is the unisex pseudonym that Bronte came up with to hide her identity. And when the book was first published, a lot of people took that very seriously. So it kind of fostered a fairly realistic approach to the book. A lot of people wanted to know who Jane was. They wanted to know who Rochester was. And so then they took a very practical kind of approach to the plot. Was Jane right to do what she had done? Could Rochester have done something else? So these fairly realistic sort of approaches to what goes on, which I think is really very strange because it's also quite obvious that Jane Eyre is also a retelling of the story of Cinderella. So Jane's an orphan. She's got a wicked stepmother. She's got two wicked stepsisters. She gets to go to the ball. She meets Prince Charming, but she also has to leave at midnight and go away. And even at that point, she's also got a pretty literal fairy godmother, who's this wonderful presence who comes in as she's trying to decide whether to leave Thornfield Hall or not and tells her to run away. So that means then that the book is completely unrealistic and it has this totally fairy tale atmosphere. And one of the things that makes the book really interesting is the way it goes back and forth between those two things. So sometimes it settles down and becomes a very practical kind of realistic account. Sometimes it gets really wild and things that happen in it don't make any sense. And these shifts in the book also correspond to or motivated by changes in Jane's desires. So there are times when Jane just wants to settle down and be part of a family and do something really dull, like be a teacher. And she gets this desire every now and then. But then there are other moments when she wants something really interesting and exciting to happen to her. So for example, when middle of the book, she's a teacher at Lowood School and everything is fine. She could just spend the whole rest of her life there. She's perfectly happy. It's exactly what she's always wanted. And for some strange reason, she decides that she's got to leave. And this is really just because she wants to lead a more interesting life. And so she throws everything over and destabilizes her life and goes off and looks for something exciting, which is exactly what she gets. And of course, the hard part for Jane, just as a character in the book, is reconciling these two things. It's trying to figure out how she can have this sort of stable family life and also this exciting, thrilling sort of thing as well at the same time. And the other interesting thing about that is how closely it tracks to the needs and desires of the reader. Because just at the moment when, say, it looks like we might have to read 40 or 50 more pages about Lowood School, which would be very boring, Jane decides that she's going to leave and do something more exciting. She wants more excitement and interest at exactly the moment when the reader needs more excitement and interest. And this is one of the things that makes it such an intriguing novel. I mean, it's very successful, of course, because Bronte has Jane more or less acting out our needs as readers and responding to those needs. But it's also almost as if, and this is one of the things that makes the book a little oddly like White Sargasso Sea, it's almost as if Jane realizes that she's in a novel and that if she doesn't do something interesting, the novel's going to get really boring. And she doesn't quite phrase it that way, but there are a couple of spots in the book where she talks about the need to lead a more interesting story or to inhabit a more interesting story. And you can kind of see that for Jane and maybe for Bronte as well, one of the most basic things the book is about is a sort of really basic human right to lead a narratable life. A person should really, in order to be successful as a person, be able to lead a life that you could put into a novel and people would want to read it and it would be interesting. And if you haven't done that, in some sense, you've been denied your rights as a human being. And that's one of the really interesting things about the book from a technical and formal sense. It's what makes it really great to read. It's also what makes it significant as a novel.